Okay, we've established the basic Indian club pattern, which was big circle, elbow circle, and back over the top. And by design, I've only brought out one stick today. It's much easier to learn with one stick versus two. Ultimately, we'll have two going at the same time. But because we're using one, we need to get the stick to the other hand. I could just hand it over there, but that doesn't look good and it doesn't feel very good either. I want to show you a more artistic way to transition from right back to left. It's going to be a front pass. We're going to do a high front pass or a low front pass. So I'm going to do one Indian club basic pattern, half front circle, half back circle, and now watch. I'm going to make a big loop here and follow it with both hands and then come back out. So this is a high front pass. And again, I'm using gravity and centrifugal force. Once gravity starts working with me, I'm just going to let it go and let it follow around. And this is a pattern we use with the big Meel clubs too. So it's much easier for me to show people how to use a stick and learn the pattern before we add the weight and the load. Really, it's about the movement, not the necessary a weight or the tool, okay? Always think of the movement first. So this is a high pass, and now we're going to work on a low pass, same type of loop-de-loop, but here in front of the navel area. So this is a low pass, back to high pass. And I'll use both depending on what I'm doing. I probably like the high pass better because I get more of a lat stretch. Now let's open up the stance. If I had a heavier Meel club, I would be absorbing the weight. As I whipped through that, I would be doing movements like this. So I like to get a little more lower body into it and a little more springy. But to begin, we keep it really simple and we don't do much leg work. So this is a high pass and this is a low pass. So here's how it works. I've got my classical stance, pretty static on the lower body. Start with my club pattern and I make a transition and I come back and do a club pattern, another transition front pass. And this becomes a nice artistic way to move from one side to the other. Front pass. Okay, let's keep adding one layer after the other. So we started with that very, very simple Indian club pattern, half front circle, half back circle. We added the high or low front pass. And now we'd like to be able to pass the stick behind the body too, which is really good for brain fitness as well. We're not looking, but we're feeling our way through that. So let's do a front pass and a back pass. Front pass, back pass. So the back pass is a little more trickier for hand agility, but let's spin this around so you can see it. So when I pass the stick behind my body, my fist is pretty close to the end of the stick. There's just a little bit sticking out, about half an inch or so. When I bring it back behind me, my palm is facing the camera and this other hand comes through and both palms are facing back. As I let go of my first hand and pull the stick through, I'm using my hand agility to cheat the stick or let it drop and work this out with my fingertips so I can get back to a half inch or so showing. Now you're seeing me combine all the movements that we put together to this point. The basic Indian club pattern, the front pass low, the front pass high, and the back pass. Let's do it from the front. So a little free forming here. Indian club pattern. 3 reps, time to switch, high pass, reverse directions, Indian club pattern. And let's go to the back pass, and let's do another back pass, and let's come back up, front pass, Indian club pattern, front pass, Indian club pattern. So I've spent hours just working on these stick patterns like this, and despite the light weight of the stick, it's amazing what happens when you start working on these patterns. Your shoulders open up, you feel good. It's a nice dynamic warm-up if you look at it that way before heavier lifting, or you can make a whole training session just out of using a stick. There have been times I've been hiking on the beach, I didn't have anything, I found a piece of driftwood and I did the same thing. So it can be very, very playful and really fun to do. So that was one more layer, that was the back pass. Let's add one more layer to what we've learned so far. So we started with the basic Indian club pattern, we do the front pass that's high or low, we have the back passes, but we can also add a little wrist roll to that Indian club pattern. I like to work on a lot of hand-wrist mobility, okay, because as I use the computer more and more, I'll lose that mobility if I don't train it back in. So this becomes a nice way to use the weight of the stick, fairly light, but it's long enough and heavy enough to kind of give me an assisted stretch and pull that wrist open through these circular patterns. So it might be helpful just to see this from the side. Let's just take that grip and close it. It won't be a tight crush grip, it'll be kind of loose, but it is closed. And we're just going to drop the stick behind our forearm. So it's real gentle, and from the front I'm slightly opening up my hand, but not much. I want to leave my hand closed as much as I can so I can work the small square bones in the back. So let's put it into an Indian club pattern. So here we go. We open our hand up, we do that pattern, I close my grip back up, and then I add another little roll at the end. So at speed it looks like this. Let's look at that wrist roll from the back too. Or I could just take and do a series of rolls. And if we put it together in a pattern, of course, it just becomes another little playful way to add one more layer of movement into the basic Indian club patterns that we're using. And now we're going to start incorporating some of the Meel patterns too, because that front pass you typically wouldn't do with a light Indian club. That's more of a larger Meel club pattern. So now we're adding the light clubs and the heavy clubs with different playful patterns, just using a very simple plastic Eskrima stick. All right, our next layer is going to be a scapular pulling type movement, using the stick behind our body. So one of the things that happens, at least with my body and many other people as well, when we sit on the computer, kind of forget about our posture, start slumping over, rounding our upper back. It's called kyphosis or a kyphotic spine, excessive forward rounding between the shoulder blades, and the clubs help open that back up, straighten us back up so we have a more efficient gravity line, if you will. Okay, so one of the ways to do that is with a simple stick type movement. So I can take this stick and place it on the border of my scapula. The scapula is your shoulder blade. And if you'll feel right here, there's a little vertical, somewhat vertical line that goes straight up and down, and that's my landmark for the stick. I can feel that notch right there. I reach up and I pull the stick out. I bring this up under my armpit, I find that border, and I pull out. So the first part of learning this movement is not adding any extra pulling, it's just trying to reach back and find the end of the stick. This is a situation where the black Eskrima stick from cold steel is much better because it's longer. Those shorter sticks that are rattan, they're only about 26 inches long usually, but this one is considerably longer. So for the people that have really tight shoulders, if I put the rattan stick in their hand, it's not sticking up as far and they literally can't reach it. So the extra length is important to letting more people play. Okay, so again, from the front, I'm going to take that longer stick, reach back, find that little notch. Now I've got some length sticking out here. I don't have to reach back down as far. It becomes much more easy for people to grab. Hey, let's add it into what we've learned so far. So we've got our Indian club pattern, we've got our passing drills, we can pass to the front, we can pass to the back, and let's add a scapular pull movement or two, and then we'll come back to a front pass, maybe back to an Indian club pattern. We can add an extra roll there, do a couple of Indian club patterns back here and add an extra roll. And so we now have all kinds of different layers that we can use to improve shoulder mobility, brain fitness, and just have a lot of fun moving and feeling good, improving posture. It's just a stick.